I was a close friend of a man named David. He always been a bit superstitious, but I never put much attention to it. That is until the night he came to me with a strange and disturbing story. David had been having recurring dreams about his deceased grandparents. In these dreams, they would appear to him looking older and more fragile than he remembered. They would tell him that they were worried about him and that he needed to be careful at work. At first, David brushed these dreams off his mind, processing the loss of his grandparents. But as time passed, the dreams continued and became more vivid. His grandparents began to give him specific warnings about the dangers that he would face at work. David was a construction worker, and the dreams were filled with images of accidents and near misses. They warned him about equipment failure and other hazards that he might encounter on the job. Despite being skeptical, David decided to take his grandparents' warnings seriously. He began to pay more attention to safety protocols at work and to be more cautious around equipment. One day, while working on a particular high building, David was helping to move a large piece of equipment when it suddenly malfunctioned. Without thinking, David jumped out of the way and the equipment fell to the ground, just inches from where he had been standing. David's co-workers were shocked and amazed that he had escaped injury. They couldn't understand how he had known to jump out of the way in time, but David knew that it was his grandparents who had saved him. He had listened to their warnings and they had kept him safe. From that day on, David never dismissed his dreams again. He knew that his grandparents were still watching over him and that they would always be there to guide him and protect him. I was a young boy when I first heard the legend of the lost soul at the summer camp where I spent my summers. My older brother, who had been going to the camp for years, told me the story one night as we sat around the campfire. According to the legend, there was a lost soul who roamed the camp at night, searching for children to take with him. He was said to be the ghost of a boy who had died at the camp many years ago and who was now seeking companionship in death. I didn't believe the story at first, but as the week went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I would wake up in the middle of the night to find my cabin mates gone, and I would hear strange noises outside. One night, I was lying in my bunk, trying to fall asleep, when I heard a voice calling my name. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I slowly sat up, and there in the corner of the cabin, I saw the ghostly figure of a boy. He looked just like the other campers, but his eyes were empty and his skin was cold. I was paralyzed with fear, but the ghostly boy smiled at me and said, "Don't be afraid. I just want to be your friend." I couldn't move. I could barely breathe. The ghost boy slowly extended his hand, and before I knew it, he had taken hold of mine. I felt a chill run down my spine, and my vision started to fade. When I woke up the next morning, I was back in my bunk. but I knew that something had changed. I never returned to their camp, and I never spoke of that ghost boy to anyone, but I knew that he was out there, still looking for a companion, and couldn't help but wonder if one day he would come from me again. I was a close friend of a girl named Emily. She was a quiet and reserved person, but I always enjoyed spending time with her. One thing that I found particularly interesting about her was her daily routine. Every day after school, Emily would take a shortcut through the woods to get home. At first I thought nothing of it. The woods were beautiful and peaceful, and I enjoyed the walk as well. But as time went on, I began to notice that Emily seemed to be growing increasingly uneasy about the shortcut. She would frequently glance over her shoulder and jump at any sudden noise. One day I asked her what was wrong. She hesitated at first, but then she told me that she had been having strange and unsettling experiences while walking through the woods. She had seen things moving out of the corner of her eye, and she had heard strange whispers in the darkness. I didn't know what to make of her story. I had never experienced anything like that in the woods, but I knew that Emily was not the type of person to make things up. I suggested we take another road home, but she refused, insisting that she needed to take the shortcut. As the weeks went on, Emily's behavior grew more and more erratic. She would come to school with dark circles under her eyes, and she would frequently miss classes because she was too scared to leave her house. I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know how to help her. One day, Emily didn't show up to school. I went to her house to check on her, but she was nowhere to be found. Her parents had reported her missing, and a search party was formed, but no trace of her was found, except for a trail of footprints that led deep in the woods. I never found out what happened to Emily, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the woods had taken her, and that she was still out there, lost and alone. I never walked through the woods alone again. The memory of my friends experiencing still haunts me till this day.